my virtual campfire. I'm really excited today to have Barry Travis with us and Stevan Miner and Peter Hetzel. So last time we chatted, Peter bridged his connection with Hamm's beer to a mystical shamanic power, and Stevan explained his passion for fixing signs and connecting to people and the brewery. And now Barry Travis is joining us to kind of expand on this story and the mystical wonders of Hamm's beer. And I've heard that Stevan and Barry on a chance encounter. So I thought we would get started with learning what the story is behind what you're doing, Barry, at ibuyOldBeer.com, and bridging that with what Stevan does, and then bridging that also with Peter's passion. And then I'm just maybe the glue that's listening to all this put together.
Well, I'm coming to you live from the land of sky blue waters, St. Paul, Minnesota, about 3 miles from the brewery. And my wife downstairs, who's letting me have my beer time, and my son, she's the granddaughter of the last brewmaster that Hamm's had. And some people might think I was shallow enough to marry her for that fact, but that was a bonus deal that came along later. So I visited her grandpa and started pulling stuff off the shelf, and my wife kind of in horror said, nobody's ever touched that stuff up on the third shelf there. But I go, this is an employee only issue. Like, how did you come across this? And he kind of leans back, well, let me tell you, kid. They had glasses that Steve knows would probably be $10, $20 at a collector's gathering, and they were well used, a set of 8 of them up in their cupboard, and he's got all sorts of stories. So I started back when I was a kid collecting beer cans, when they didn't turn you into child welfare services for letting your mom stack pyramids of beer cans in your room, and discontinued it until the late 90s when my parents threatened to throw them all out and recycle them unless I came and got them. And I did recycle about 98%, but then found this band of merry collectors that Steve was a part of, and we kind of hit it off with our love and sense of humor for this stuff, and we're both a little off the deep end on it, so we're partners in this deal, and it sure involves some interesting stories, this being one of them.
Love it. I had no idea that you were actually related to Hamm's family in a by marriage, but still that's so great. That's excellent.
Hamm's collectors, I call myself a Hamm's collector, but it's more by chance or circumstance. Some of those guys are crazy and have deep pockets, and I can't swim in those waters. But if I find a bargain, or somebody, a well-intentioned coworker, somebody brings me something, I'll keep it. And nothing gives me greater pleasure than to supply someone like Steve, an advanced collector and a friend, of surprising him with something he's never seen before. That just makes my heart go pitter patter to see the look of genuine astonishment on his face, because he's pretty hard to pull one over on. The brewery itself, but each individual distributor was given free rein to get a gift catalog and, maybe buy the minimum of a couple dozen items. And that's what makes something so rare. A pen or an ashtray from somebody that you never even knew was a distributor. That's what happens a lot of times with Steve. Salt shakers and ashtrays and such.
I want to go back a little bit. So before you met your fiance, you collected cans. I was a small collector of cans in the beginning, and Stevan, of course, was a big collector, and you were obviously a big collector. And we're pretty close to the same age, I guess. I'm 58, and we were collecting the same rusty cone tops. A rusty cone top. That was magical. But when did you, and you're St. Paul, born and raised also, is that right?
No, a small town, a farm kid between Rochester and Owatonna. So Dodge Center, the center of Dodge County.
Oh, okay. Wow. You got that going for you. But hey, so when did you say, well, the Hamm's thing is something different? I guess that's what I'm kind of leading to.
And yeah, the Hamm's guys that are exclusively Hamm's, those are as well, you can look behind Steve and you'll quickly run out of room, and now it's gotten crazy. And there's another generation, thankfully, that are taking up the mantle of collecting. It does my heart good to see 20 and 30 years olds at shows. And for a while, we thought things like glassware might have died. I mean, glasses you could barely give away for $1 or $2 are now up, boy, $10, $20 glasses. And there's an active online community, Facebook for us old guys, but it's auctions, and the exchange of information is amazing. You can throw a question out there at noon and come back, and 1 or 2 o'clock, you've got 4 people chiming in with an answer, which it blows me away.
Right. So yeah, so you're, I forget that, right? You're a man of many, you're pretty wide when it comes to your interest in the beer market, right?
I don't discriminate.
You're not as Hamm's crazy as Steven and I get it.
I remember the days, and Steve will nod, I'm sure, in agreement, when $250, $300 for a Scenorama was, you're paying up for it.
Right.
And I've always got to kind of kick Steve to remind him there's not a lot of people on earth that have the talents that he does, with being the former auto mechanic, and he kind of takes his talents for granted. But once he goes through a sign, it's better than factory new. And people, I always say too, if you took a Skippy jar and threw a 5-spot in there every time somebody complimented you, or you looked up on the wall and said, I'm sure glad I've got that sign, or that I paid the money for it when I did, that will pay for itself quickly. But I think it's fueled by people constantly want to upgrade. There's the pandemic factor, which there was no place to spend your money for quite a while. And now guys are getting to our age and they say, you know what, I want it and I'm going to buy it, whatever it takes. And
one of the issues my wife is on me, said, what are you doing with all this stuff after you die? What am I going to do with it? Right? What it's going to be left for me to have to deal with. And you had mentioned, and I think the trash to treasure segue here. When a collector moves on to the next, then suddenly there are a lot of items on the market.
Knowledge is key, and to do your research is everything. I mean, it's Steve and I joke that our wives are both going to have a rummage sale and put $5 choice in the driveway, and we're spinning in our grave. And we'd like to think that we're bestowing upon our heirs and people left behind a vast fortune of wealth. It's mostly an imposition, but what you want to do is align yourself with somebody that you can trust. I would get multiple inquiries or opinions. Don't do anything rash. Don't pull the trigger too quickly. Do your research. Go to eBay and go ended auctions. So many people go on there. Oh, I saw a Scenorama listed for $2,500. Yeah, it's been out there 1.5 years and no idiot has pulled the trigger on it, and no one's going to. But you want to go to ended auctions, make sure it matches yours, the type, the variation, and write these things down. Compare them to the things that you have or your husband or somebody has on the wall. And the whole thing is multiple inquiries. You can tell pretty quickly from a conversation whether or not you can trust somebody, or if they're giving you the bum's rush with, I'll buy it. No. Align yourself with somebody that's knowledgeable, experienced. Like I say, Steve's hard to surprise, but we'd like to think we're pretty trustworthy. We've been at it for a while. We're not desperate, and we're going to be here. So by treating people fairly, it comes back in karma. You don't have to have a direct payment, but through repeatedly treating people like you would want to be treated, it comes back to you, I feel, in unexpected, surprising ways. And we've had that proven many times over. The internet thing, I mean, we'll get people coming up to us because of things like this, and they saw us somewhere, and evidently we struck a chord, hopefully a good one, and you get cool stuff.
Well, it sounds like you're following the golden rule.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Something we've all forgotten. So you two met. Where exactly did you two met, and what was the story behind that? I don't know if I quite caught all that, or we caught.
I believe it was a cowgirl with a horse. And I reached out to Steve hearing, well, oh, Steve Miner's the man. Yeah, the man. Let's see. But he goes, I don't know. I got it off the top shelf of a local antique store. You know, that's another place to search people. Top of coolers, top of ducks. They put signs up there, and here this cowgirl and horse sign comes down, and it's a Hamm's one from the 40s. And I might have paid $20 for it. And I think Steve goes, well, heck, I'll give you a honeybee for that. I had to translate. I didn't know Minerisms then, but a honeybee is $100 bill. And I'm like, wow, well, he didn't even hesitate. So I met him at the Steele County Fair in Owatonna, and we made the handoff. I believe he was with his lovely wife, Susan, by her first marriage. And that, you know, first impressions mean everything. And the fact he just ponied up, and then I began to unravel, peel back the onion, which is Steven, and there were a lot of facets there. Another thing too, if you've got time for this, I had a 96 Ford Windstar van, white smoke coming out the tailpipe. Call up Steve. He's like Regis Philbin, you know, phone a friend option. White smoke coming out the tailpipe. That doesn't sound good. That sounds like a head gasket problem to me. Is it puking out liquid? No. Well, that's probably next. You better call the dealership, find out, you know, dealership, Freeway Ford, not to mention any names.
Right.
They wanted to bend me over for $2,000.
Right.
Steve calls back within 5 minutes, goes, wait a minute, I seem to recall some obscure recall on the head gaskets of those Fords. You call back, and coincidentally enough, Freeway Ford, oh, by gosh, there is a recall on those. So from his knowledge, saved me $2,000 just, and that was early in our relationship. But these things stack up to build trust, and you know, that's just shows what kind of person Steve is. He helps numerous people in his town where he's at and in the hobby with, you know, if he has it in his wheelhouse, he's happy to share it.
I remember, like it was yesterday, I had purchased an item on eBay from Barry. And so obviously I sent him my information, and I says, hey, I need to have this sent to Winnebago, Minnesota. And this guy from East St. Paul, he says, oh, Winnebago, I know where that's at. And I says, you do? And he says, yeah. He says, do you know the Cree Walls out to the lake? And I says, well, yeah. And he says, well, do you know Daniel Mundell? And I says, yeah, he's our city administrator. And I was on the fire department at the time, so I obviously had a lot of contact with city administrator. And he says, well, I went to school with him. And I says, wow, what a small world. And so we started this correspondence, and I got this item from him. He sent it to me. Well, shortly after that, I had another friend that was fairly new in the hobby, and we'd go out on weekends, go to antique stores and this and that, looking for stuff. And so we was, I think it was in Albert Lee or Austin, one of the two. And this fella came up to us, and he says, hey, he says, you guys looking for beer stuff? And he overheard our conversation. I said, well, yeah. He said, well, I got a whole basement full. Oh, really? Okay. Is it for sale? Yep. So we go over to his house, and his entire basement was full of stuff. And this friend that I was with, he didn't, you know, I don't know nothing about that. I said, don't worry, I'll take care. You know, I said, well, how much is it? And the prices were, you know, very reasonable for the time. And so I bought what I knew was good stuff, not necessarily Hamm stuff, but good resaleable stuff. And my friend, who actually run the Ranch restaurant in Fairmont, Minnesota, I says, hey, I'll take care of all the details here, and we'll split this 50-50. I mean, I'll do all the work. I said, I can move this stuff. I know who collects this, who collects that. First call I do is Mr. Travis here. I says, hey, we just bought a bunch of stuff from this guy. And so I rattled off all the different things. Oh, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. And so that's when we met at the Steele County Fair, because his mother-in-law at the time had the Mexican restaurant at the Steele County Fair. And he told me, he says, if you want to come up there, it was on a Thursday night. He says, you come up there. He says, I'll make you a burrito the size of your forearm. And he did. We exchanged stuff, and I give him the signs that I had that I'd purchased that he could move, whatever. And so that's kind of started our beer relationship. And it went from there. I mean, this guy, I could tell you stories until cows get. I mean, he has found me so many items, and I tell people with Barry, the big deal is the thrill of the hunt. He has a collection of stuff, yes, and it's very, very impressive collection of stuff. He doesn't have the massive rooms, I should say.
Right.
But Barry's deal is the thrill of the hunt. He loves to find stuff, and as he said earlier, his biggest thrill is to find that item and get it to the right person. The grain belt guy, the Fitkers guy, the Hamm's guy, and it's so funny because I go up and visit quite often. His little boy is, I'm the godfather of his little boy, in fact, and so we go up and visit quite often, and Barry will come up with something. He says, "Oh, look at this," and I say, "Oh man, is that cool?" I says, if you ever decide to sell that, give me first shot at it. Okay. By the end of the day, why don't you just take that home?
Right.
So many times.
Barry, what would be your prized possession? I mean, I posted this on the Facebook page, and there wasn't a lot of response. Maybe people don't like to think about it. It's like, if you could only keep one item. I don't know if you remember that, Steven. And if someone, God forbid, said you can only keep one Hamm's item, or you can only keep one beer item, or one sign item, what would it be? And for me, I guess I'd have to say it'd have to be that deck of cards. It was the beginning for me, and I'd probably take that. But how about you, Steven? First,
that guy right there.
Take him.
Well, Steve and I both have an item that's made, and it's high praise when your wife allows it in the main living area, which
that's true.
That's
probably my second one. He's my first.
Barry, do you have an item like that really that like touches the root of, that really touches your heart, or whatever it is that causes things like signs to resonate within us?
Steve, you hear Peter's throwing this underhand, and it's my duty to hit it out of the park, isn't it? Well, it goes back to, I don't know, the early 2000s, and some guy posted what was just a flat picture of a Hamm sign on the internet, and it was one of those that caused you to do the cartoon, and the eyes go out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that before. That's crazy. So I tend to be a little persistent. It's only over unless a restraining order is issued or one of us dies. And while I'm here, I will continue to pursue it, and I will woo the person. If I find a weakness, in this case, it was smoked salmon. I had it mail ordered to the guy, but he found 2 Hamm's corner signs dated 1900, shipped from Yankton, South Dakota to this little bar in Java. And he and his nephew went in there. The city told them, we're going to tear this bar down. The scrappers had been in there. They'd taken the wiring. They'd taken the plumbing. So these guys are looking around, and it's 12-foot ceilings, and they look up to the tin ceiling and see a trap door. So they run home, get a ladder, put it up against the wall, climb up there, and in the shadows, they see 2 corner signs, and they're corner signs because they were placed on each corner of a bar, and they're curved, so multi-directional. You would bring in beer drinkers that would see these corner signs, but they're made by the Tuck Farber Sign Company, and they're very ornate. And these, I've never seen them anywhere in a photo, anywhere at all. And so I got a hold of this guy. I talked to his parents while they were still alive. I sent him letters, and finally he emailed. It got to email. This was pre-email. Right. And I made him an offer, and his name was Patrick, and I just kept at him. And finally he goes, I think I'll take or consider your offer. Oh, the longest weeks of my life. But we met. He drove 2 or 3 hours. I drove 2 or 3 hours. We met at a truck stop. It was like a drug deal going down, I'm sure, out in the parking lot. And I got the money shot. I go, Patrick, you got to hold these signs up. And we made the deal out there, and the best thing was there was 2 signs, and I never told Steve. It took all the willpower I had in the world, because I'm not a good secret keeper, but I just told him, you know, if you get a chance, stop in the next time you're up. And he had a time where he could have stopped in. It got postponed. It killed me. But I brought out the 1 sign when he came up, and we've got this on video. And
Cool is not even.
Steve Miner, if you choose to, you can take that sign home. Why?
And the other one went home with him that day for, you know, about a little more than what I paid for it. But the fact that it hangs in his house and has that much meaning, just like that is the, you know, I've been offered crazy amounts of money for it, but it's just one of those. I had an old lady tell me one time, son, I haven't looked the pretty out of it yet. And I will never tire of looking at that sign and thinking of the story.
What a nice way to describe an item. I haven't looked the pretty out of it. That's really, or a wife.
Yes.
Well,
I hope she watches this, Peter. I owe you one.
Well, I have to protect my wife watches too, so I have to protect myself too. So I have to be not just. Anyway, and Krystal too. Krystal's an old friend. She'll call me on any. We can't get too man cave here. But that sign.
Well, you know, I do hold the editing power, so I can cut it out.
Are you enjoying this, Krystal? Is this working out all right?
No, I love it. You know, the last couple of weeks I've been now a member of your guys' Facebook page, so I'm learning all about Hamm's beer. And I think my favorite part is that you guys call each other hamsters.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that just like cracks me up so much. Like every time I read it, like fellow hamster,
I take credit for that.
I love that. That is the best term. Another thing that I found really fascinating about your guys' page that I thought was a super fun story was that couple that was driving from the West Coast to the Midwest. And all along the way, they were like, we're coming for the Hamm's beer, and, you know, posting pictures along the way, like we're almost there. And I just thought that was so funny. They're like making almost like this spiritual quest across the country, you know, their search for the land of sky blue waters.
They're in.
Are they there now?
They're in your house.
Yeah. Well, they just went out to the bird's nest.
Okay.
I got another friend that's got a collection. They just went out there for a get to know the Winnebago people party.
Well, yeah, Steven, you really
your story. Like, why did they go from the West Coast to the Midwest in search of Hamm's beer? What motivated them?
They say they're Hamm's collectors, and I say when somebody comes, I'm one of the administrators on the group, and I get to see a new face or a new person. I go out of my way to welcome them and to help them and to, it might be a little intimidating for some people, thinking that we're just a bunch of old guys that sit around, smoke cigars and drink beer. I mean, it's anything but. I think we're probably the friendliest group or hobby in the country. I mean, it's just like Barry was saying earlier, if you have a question on an item, or whether the value or how to repair it or whatever, you can put something on that page, and within minutes you have an honest answer to your question, and it's free.
And the BS gets weeded out. That's another thing too. It goes back to your question, Peter, about finding a trusted person. The internet's a great thing because you can tell somebody that's desperate or full of crap on there very quick. Those get vetted quickly. If someone's cheap or trying to steal something.
Yep. I have a young man here just this weekend. He come down to see these people from Oregon, and he's here, and he's what I consider a young collector. And I just took him up to New Ulm. We went up to the Shells Brewery, and I showed him around up there today. That's what we did today for him. And I traveled back with this young guy, and we had quite a discussion as far as, I said, you're kind of the next step here. I mean, you know, and he's become very knowledgeable, and he's asking questions. I says, you got to kind of carry the torch here a little bit for us guys, because I mean, this hobby obviously is going to continue. I mean, there's certain people that have, you know, talked to the death knell for years, but it's if anything now it's bigger than ever. I mean, it's just insane. The fact that they reintroduced the old can now, and the beer has kind of gotten a little bit of a resurgence, and whether you want to call it trendy or whatever it is, there's a whole new group of hamsters, and the glassware is a big thing now. We have quite a few guys and gals that are really concentrating on the different styles of glassware that Hamm's had. In fact, I'm collaborating with a couple from Brainerd. They are barbecue. They go out to barbecue competition. Anyway,
yeah.
Some years ago, that one of our collectors, he's passed away now, but he put out a glass list. So you know, there's different heights that held different amounts of ounces and different labels, and he put out, it was fairly inexpensive, but it was at the time it was a pretty comprehensive list.
Right.
Well, this has obviously become quite outdated by now, and Lindsay Radis is his name. He's taken it upon himself to take that list and add to it and improve it and everything. And now with the technology that we have, we can, so I agreed to help him with it. And in fact, he called me the other day, and he was, one of the things that he was going to add to this list is the little wax cups, paper cups with the wax.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he says, well, he said, I think I have them all. I said, well, how many do you have? And he says, I have 7. And I says, you're not even close.
Oh no.
He says, what? I says, yeah. I said, when I get home, and I came up with 15 more that he didn't even knew existed. And so, and you know, and we're going to measure the height. I mean, and we're going to actually picture them instead of just having a description. So, and
that's just for glassware.
Right. Exactly.
That's just for glassware.
I mean, it is really hard to explain. It's almost like owning a Harley. I mean, once you own a Harley, it's like a family, and that's what this beer thing is too. I mean, it's just one big family, and now we got Krystal as a member of our family,
and we allow her because of the Olympia connection.
Right, exactly.
So yeah. At least you could have gotten an Olympia sign, Krystal. I mean, you had it 2 weeks.
Yeah,
oh, I know. You don't know how busy I am, though, Peter.
I could see you in an Olympia T-shirt. That would be quite funny, actually.
It's the water.
Friends
to our trash deal, because I've gotten, and I'm sure you have, Steve, how about old guys that would cut the lids out of cans and put nails or screws in them? So a lot of times I've gotten pretty decent beer cans that have just been used for other purposes. Right.
Well, that's, so we had talked about that, the first video, episode 27, and there was a comment on YouTube about how this is all trash. And then, yeah, on one hand, it's all trash. I mean, you can't eat it. You know, you can't, I mean, it could be considered all trash, but the treasure is in the beholder. And Steven had said last time that some of the most valuable stuff for him, and I think it's for me as well, is valuable, most interesting, is the stuff that was meant to be thrown away, that didn't get thrown away, right? Or
and the word for the day for the class is ephemera, EPHEMERA.
Right.
Crap that was meant to. I had to ask an old timer that one time, would you repeat that? It's stuff that was not meant to be collected, but is valuable.
Some of the artwork I do, and the reason why I originally met Peter is because I take pictures of bird poops that look like shapes. And so and I have always said that it's ephemeral art because it gets washed away with the rain. So, so, you know, my collection of bird poops might seem like shit to someone, but to me, I think it's art. So you guys are collecting what might seem like trash, but to you guys, it means something, and it's, you know, it's artistic. But so I love ephemeral art. I think it's really special.
Yeah.
there are certain cans that have the disclaimer on them, withdrawn free of export tax, and those were military use only cans. And they actually made camouflage cans. In World War II, there was a ban on commercial canning for domestic use because of war shortages and tin and such. So the only beer that was allowed to be made, I think it was 44 to maybe 46. If breweries made canned beer, they were olive drab cans, so they could be drank in the field by soldiers. And so if you were tipping one back, you wouldn't get shot by a sniper because of a shiny lid. They were military issue, and even the lids were olive drab in color. So if they have the withdrawn free from export tax on them, they're war issue cans. But here is a box that a soldier packed up his belongings from Japan. It's dated 1944. And I'm sure he used whatever was around in the field to pack up his Japanese treasures. And it's got his address and then the return address of Traverse City, Michigan, shipped in this box dated 1944. And it was trash, but it's probably the only example known. And to us collectors, it's just, it tells the story from start to finish and what it contained. So, because you'll see he engraved the soldier, and I believe it's New Guinea, must have taken a sharp ice pick or something and engraved the date on the lid of the can. I think if they could talk, you know, those beers must, you think you and I and Krystal, you know, this is the best beer I ever had, but can you imagine fearing for your life for a period of time and then coming back and having a nice cold beer that reminds you of home?
Quite honestly, that really bridges. Peter is in Japan, and we were talking about if Hamm's beer was big in Japan, but the fact that that box was sent from Japan back to the States, you know, so that right there, the oldest known Hamm's box to be sent from Japan of all places back to the US. So I think this mystical connection continues.
I'm kind of moved here, actually. I'm kind of moved by the just it's really a powerful.
That's what item. We do.
Yeah, right.
It's like really, really deep rooted too.
Going back to the Casey's, they're basically doing their like a Hamm's pilgrimage, right?
They went to Duluth, and then they stopped at the old Hamm's brewery, which is now St. Paul Brewing Company, and I set them up with those people there, and they took the tour there, and then they come down to Winnebago, and they've been here since Friday, so I've been taking around showing them off, and now we have another friend that has a very large collection just outside of town here, and his nickname is Big Bird, and so his bar is called the Bird's Nest, and so that's where the party's at tonight. So so we invited a bunch of people to come meet the Oregon people. So we're gonna give them a good dose of Minnesota Nice tonight.
That's really wonderful. I know you saw that. That's you know, only on the Hamm site can you make a public announcement of a party here.
There you go.
So I'm curious, are they just like on vacation or are they moving there?
They
on vacation.
They hate Oregon. They want to move back here. they've already looked at the real estate here in town, and they can't believe the prices.
Well, Steve, you've got to tell them about Big Bird. How did he come into town?
Exactly, same way. Yeah, he was originally from the Twin Cities, so and his stepson actually worked for me, and I met them at a show, at a beer show, and he purchased a part for a sign from me, and it's grown into, I mean, we're almost inseparable now. I mean, we go beer shows together, and he's transformed this originally a pigeon shed that was full of cobwebs and pigeon crap. He's turned it into this unbelievable venue, that private venue, whatever, of all his beer signs, and it's got a croquis stage and a bar and it's just insane.
Think of the unlimited photo opportunities which went when Big Bird made his bar, of all that pigeon poop and the potential photos gone.
Yeah, That was like
Oh.
the Museum of Art in France, I imagine. You know, I mean, it would have been
Jackson
Oh, yeah,
Pollock.
oh, poor Krystal. Vintage poop pictures gone
Yeah.
forever.
piles of it. I mean, it was just. I mean, who knows? There could have been a Mona Lisa in there, and we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know.
Oh.
You know,
Oh,
I've had
yeah.
people send me pictures of bird poops that look like Jesus and ones that I think Peter, you sent me one that looked like a bird. You know, like
Yeah.
I always think they do their self-portraits.
Right. They're trying to actualize themselves by pooping their pictures onto my deck. Yeah, that was really strange. I see that picture pop up once in a while. Yeah, I believe it. Every time I see
it's so
bird
funny. It looks like a bird.
Yeah, it looks like a bird. He
I'm going to look at it differently from now on, I guess. I never
forget it.
second
Every
look, but
time you see
now
bird poop.
I'm going to look. Yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah.
You'll never see bird poop any other way. I mean, I have people that send me so randomly. Years later, I'll get a text from someone and it'll be a picture of a bird poop, and they're like, "I just thought of you. Who is it?" But thank
It's
you.
a great way to be known, I guess. Hey, you know, it's up to you. I mean,
Yeah. That well. What?
Probably the most epic, if we can get Peter to go back to the Midwest and me and Jason to go to the Midwest, like on a somewhat of a pilgrimage to meet up with you guys. And I am in the process of like publishing my bird poop book. So maybe, and I didn't even know this was connected, but maybe the bird poop book will be done at the same time, and maybe I can like release it in the bird's nest, because where else would you release a
Brilliant.
book
Brilliant.
about bird poop?
Whoa!
The greatest tragedy spot from
Oh,
Phoenix.
Brilliant.
Maybe
Brilliant.
like this ephemeral art is actually all connected, and
Wait till I tell.
and-
I can't wait to tell him. I mean, he will be so excited.
and we can have live pigeons on site creating
Yeah.
performance art.
and they can be making art as we're drinking
Yeah,
Hamm's beer.
yeah.
And we could be selling it. Yes.
Oh yes.
Archival canvases.
Talk about target marketing. I mean, yeah, brilliant. I love it.
So yeah, so maybe that's our plan and our
I'm just gonna say,
you know,
hey,
I don't
you
know. That
guys
just
went.
came out
I
of
mean,
the
that's
top of
all
my
I can
head.
say. I mean, you know, I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean,
Wow.
Such a bizarre coming together of moments and hobbies and dreams. A bird poop release.
it's karma.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Sounds good, people.
well, you know. All right. Well, have a great time with the
Yep.
Caseys.
Yep.
And please tell Miss Casey I really appreciate her graphics. I mean, she really did a nice job on the editing, adding the bear to those items. That was fantastic. So
Yeah.
so she's
I'll
got
say hi
talent.
to him for you. We got plenty more stories.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good evening, guys.
All right. Take care,
All
everyone.
right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.